tabs. It'll just be a quick overview of literally what the pending tab looks like, the community queue, and who's going to be able to access each of those tabs as well. And then towards the end, Tucker's going to do the referral process step by step. What we're doing now is we're actually beta testing with a group of agencies, a small group of agencies, but we're going to see where this leads. So we're interested in hearing your thoughts as well. Something to keep in mind is your access role within Clarity. So the two main access roles we're looking at is the CES matchmaker and the agency referral manager. So the CES matchmaker is literally the staff from the call center only. So when we're saying matchmaker, think of it as the people in the call center that are taking in the calls and matching up the clients with any availability. When we're talking about the agency referral manager, we're talking about your side of it, your agency, the people within your agency that will be accepting those referrals. So if you guys have open units or open beds, then your agency referral manager are going to be the ones that are going to be connecting the saying yes or saying no to those referrals.
One other point is just that all of the overall agency managers will also effectively be learning this role, because they'll also have to oversee it, even if they're not necessarily the person who's specifically responsible for entering the openings or accepting the referrals.
Yes, and also on the behalf of agency managers, if you are requesting a new license for a new user, and we need to know who needs that access as well. So it's not that way, they're not just agency staff, they're an agency referral manager. So keep that in mind for agency managers. I'm looking at you, Bill. Thank you. So the very first thing to remember, you want to be in your home page. So for those of you that have access to coordinated entry, you want to make sure that you're not in coordinated entry, you're in your own agency, that you're in your home page. So we're looking at the search bar, at the search screen, and you want to click on over to the referrals. If you don't see this referrals, that's probably because you're either not in your agency and you're not in your home screen. So again, you just want to make sure you're there to be able to access this referrals tab. Once you click on that tab, this is the screen that you're going to see. Again, depending on the access role that you guys have, not everyone will be able to see this. We can see this because we're agency managers and we were able to take those screenshots, but this is the list, the tabs, all the tabs that are available. But just remember that when you guys have access to this, you might not be able to see all of them, and that's okay, because again, they're filtered through your access. So we'll go over one by one. The first tab is the pending tab. So when you click on the pending tab, you're going to be able to see all the pending referrals for your agency. So one of the things to remember is that if you have more than one shelter program within your agency, you're going to have several referrals listed out for each of the programs, and they're filtered by program name. So you want to make sure that, I don't know, I think the only one, Bill, I don't think you have that issue. No, yes, you do. I lied. So you'll be able to filter them out through the program name. You want to make sure that you click on the client name to be able to access a referral. So once you click on this, you'll go to their client's profile. And the way to complete that is by enrolling the client into your program. So the staff can also edit the referral just by clicking on this. It'll be a little icon, and you guys are familiar with that, the edit button here. you'll be able to edit the referral there, and you can also deny one of the referrals from this edit button there. Do you guys have questions? I can't see the chat, so Tucker, if you could just let me know.
I will. There's no questions. Yes.
Okay, so this is the pending tab. Again, you'll be able to see all of them here for your agency. Now, if we click on over to the community queue tab, this is only going to be visible for the call center staff. So they're going to be responsible for viewing the people on the queue and making those referrals. And this will be something that they do every day. So if new referrals come in, they'll be able to access those, every day. So the analysis tab is not set up, but when it does get set up, the matchmakers in the call center are going to be the only ones that access this. So you guys don't have to worry about that. The completed tab. So this one shows all the referrals that were completed, that they were enrolled, and it also displays client level data, the referral date, the date that the referral was connected, the client was connected, and the number of days the referral was pending. So further down in the slides, Tucker's actually going to go over what that means. The number of days and why that's important. So the denied tab, this is not what you'll see, but you'll see a different screen. But the thing to remember about the denied tab is there are different situations that can cause a referral to be denied. And that's the following. The status is directly made or reassigned to a program manually to be updated, to be denied. So you're doing it manually, right? You're going in and you're denying the status yourself. The referral to the community queue has reached the inactive referral expiration threshold. So that threshold is actually set up to be 30 days. So if there is any inactivity for any pending referrals, it will, for 30 days, it's going to automatically be denied. It'll be expired, and that's where you'll be able to see those 30-day inactive referrals. The next one is a referral from the community queue to the program with a status of pending or pending in process has reached the community referral threshold. So this is different than the expiration threshold, because this one is the status was updated to pending or pending in process, and it wasn't updated within 3 days. So if it's not updated within those 3 days, it's going to automatically expire, and then you'll be able to see it here in the denied tab. One thing to remember is that you'll need to check in on referrals when the threshold is reached to keep the referral active or pending in process. So again, it's just set to those 3 days. So you want to make sure that you check in on any of the referrals. If you change their status to pending or pending in process, you want to make sure that you're constantly checking up on them. The next one is that the status of a referral directly made or reassigned to a program was manually updated to expired. So you yourself did it. It was manually updated to expired. It could be either because the referral expiring based on other criteria, or the event, in the event a data entry error occurred during the update process. So it's just automatically done if you do the expiration threshold, which is 30 days, the referral threshold, if it's 3 days, if it was once pending, or if you just manually do it to denied. That's where you'll be able to see them here. Now the next tab is the sent tab. This will only be visible to the call center matchmakers, and it's going to be a record of everything, of all the referrals that were sent. And again, they'll be able to filter through these characteristics down here. So if you guys have questions on anything that you've sent before, you can always let them know and ask them, and they'll be able to give that information out to you. So the availability tab, this is where you guys come in. This is where your agency referral managers are going to be able to let coordinated entry know what beds or units are available within your shelter programs. So the only agency referral managers can see this tab and can edit this tab for openings. So one thing that you want to remember is that when you're in the availability tab, you want to go to your shelter queue because that's what we're using here now. And you also want to do, it'll list all your shelter programs down here. Um, whether there's, again, this is YPI, but for UBIL, you'll have a lot more than this if you want to do one single opening or add multiple openings. And again, Tucker will go through this in a little bit more detail further down in the slides. But this is where you guys want to pay close attention to, because this, again, this is where you guys are going to let us know how many available units you have. And the open units tab. So this is a report, and it's going to give you all the open units and the characteristics of those units. So if you look here, it'll tell you the agency. And then if you look here, it'll tell you the program type, project type. And then over here, it'll tell you how many units are available, how many units they have, and how many are open. This report, the coordinated entry referral staff is going to have access to this. So again, if you guys have questions or if you want to, take a look, let us know and we can share this information with you guys as well. Oh, and now Tucker.
Yep. So we'll take you through kind of step by step on who's going to do what in the referral process. So the first step will be that the staff at the shelter will identify an opening. And one important point is that you will need to exit you will need to exit the person who has left the person or household who has left that bed or that room. And we'll show you what the form to submit the specific opening is, and it will have some details that you can enter about what an appropriate referral is for that room based on that form, Betty. The referral manager will enter that opening into Clarity. Then the call center staff will see that opening has been added, and they will make a referral and send that client to the shelter. Then the agency referral manager will review the referral in the pending tab. And if the client shows up and is accepted into the program, they will complete the referral by enrolling the client in the program, or will manually set that referral to denied or let it expire depending on what the policies around your shelter are. The call center will re-refer anybody who is denied to the next appropriate opening if that client shows up, asks for shelter again. It's also important that if you deny a client for a particular reason, you let CES know the reason that denial happened, and that you set a public alert if that client should not be re-referred to your shelter in the future.
So we just have two questions. Is there a way to list how many beds are in each opening?
Yes, we'll show you the form in that will have the number of beds and we can go over the specifics as to how you want to enter the openings.
And the next question is there a cap on how many referrals are sent to a particular program?
So there will be one referral made per opening that at most one referral of a household or an individual made per opening that's entered. So if there's a hotel program that starts up, they might enter a whole bunch of openings in the day, in a day, if that were to happen again, or if there were or let's say next winter season, the winter shelters open up, they'll put in all of their beds as open, the first day that they're open, and the call center could refer, 20, 30 clients to each of those openings. Okay. So again, you have to be in your own agency that has the program, and you have to be on the search page in order to see the referrals tab. And then in the referrals tab, you'll see it'll always start you on the pending referrals, but to enter the opening, you're going to click over to availability. So the availability is where referral managers are going to indicate that there are open beds or units. And right now we're just working in the shelter queue. So we will eventually do the referrals to the housing programs as well, but you want to make sure that you click over to the shelter queue. All of the projects that will be doing referrals this way are going to be set to limited availability. That just means that all of the referrals are happening to specific openings that the program is creating for CES to make the referrals for. So you'll see the list of shelter projects that you have that are connected to the shelter queue, and you hit the little caret on the program that you want to show the openings for. In this case, we're looking at the YPI hotel because that was the one we set up all of the, tested out how all of this functionality works. And you can either add a single opening if you have a single bed or a single room that's available, or you can add multiple openings at once. So if you have two women's beds open that are regular shelter beds, you could just click the add multiple openings and add identical openings that way. So this is what the opening form looks like. So you'll select the date. It'll generally be today's date when you're making it available. The additional notes are this is the most important part actually, because the additional notes are what the matchmakers see when they're trying to select which available opening is they're sending the client to. So if you have a family room, you want to put all of the information that will allow the matchmakers to make sure that they're selecting the right room that can fit that family into the additional notes. So you could write that, you have one room open, it has a twin bed and a cot and a toddler bed and can fit a porter crib, for instance. This, and Amy is asking, is this where top bunk, bottom bunk is denoted? Yes. So for individual shelters, you want the shelters should put in if it's a top or a bottom bunk. Harrington has been doing this for a while, and they're the ones who have most of the top bunks. But if there's some particular characteristic of the individual shelter bed, then that would make some kind of person not a good referral to that particular bed, please let us know in the additional notes. And to be clear, the additional notes, these are things that are specific about this bed in particular. So we've already set up the eligibility for the shelter programs. So when the matchmakers are making a referral for a woman who calls in, they're not going to see as an option any men's shelters, for instance. That's all. You don't have to worry about that in the opening because that's already set up at the program level. So it's just things that are true about the particular beds within the programs that you have to put into the additional notes. There are also the following fields that have kind of the metadata about the bed. These show up on the open units report. So the way that the call center is going to, the way that the matchmakers kind of operate is that they get notified, they look at what the characteristics are of the beds, and then when they're taking calls, if they get somebody who is an appropriate referral, then they're right at that time going in to make that referral to the appropriate bed. So they're looking at the metadata in terms of everybody finding out what the openings are for that day. But then when they're taking calls, they're going to be going to make a referral based on the things that are entered in the additional notes. Does that make sense to folks? Do you have any questions about that? It's a little bit, I think it's definitely a little bit of a different challenge between the individual shelters and the family shelters. And we've done more of the testing on the individual shelters so far. So definitely if anybody has questions about your specific setup for family shelter, please feel free to unmute or put the question in the chat. Okay, so multiple openings is the same form, but there's just an additional question that's number of openings at the top. It will create identical openings. So if you put 2 in there, it'll create 2 that have all of the same following, 2 openings that have all of the same following data. So if you have 3 bottom bunks, you can put 3 as the number of openings, set the date, write that it's a bottom bunk, and that will create all 3 of those openings at once. So it kind of speeds up there. I think also for Woonsocket, if you have, let's say you have 2, in your family shelter section, you have 2 rooms that are next to each other, and you could either take, let's say, 2 families of mom and child, or you could take 1 family of up to 5. You could enter 2 openings there and put in the notes that we have 2 rooms open. We could either take 2 mom and child, or we could take a family up to 5. And then because it's in the notes, then the CES team would be able to see that that was the situation and be able to make an appropriate referral. The only thing would be then if they did refer 1 larger family to it, then you'd have to go in and delete the non-reserved room because it was being used by that larger family. So speaking of when reviewing your openings, once you enter the openings, you'll see all of the available openings in the section under your shelter. So you'll see available openings, and then you'll see reserved openings. So the reserved openings are ones where a client or household has been referred and is on your pending tab. And the available openings are the ones that nobody has been referred yet. And so if you have an opening that you need to delete, there is a delete button over on the right-hand side. You can edit or delete the opening there. So for instance, in that case, like we were talking about for you guys in the family shelter, let's say it was one of them was a family of mom and child was sent to one of those rooms. You could go into the other opening that's still listed as available, and you could delete the part about the being able to accommodate a larger family in there, because you wouldn't be able to anymore. Or conversely, you could delete the opening if there was a larger family using both of those rooms. So the really important point is that you should very regularly be in the pending and the availability tab, and you should always make sure that all of the openings that you have are accurate. So you might have a case where CES, keeps talking to families. They say, oh, there's an open room in Woonsocket. The families then decide not to go to Woonsocket, and you deny them, and then that room will open right up again. So if something changes about it, if you decide to move families around and something changes about it, you want to make sure that any openings that are listed in there are still accurate and available for the matchmakers to send referrals to. So when you add a referral to the system, there will be notifications sent to the CES team, and that's kind of how they'll know that they should review what units are open, is that they'll get a whole bunch of notifications about units that have been about openings that have been added to the system for them to review and to send referrals to. And it will be both a notification in email and a to the Clarity inbox. So the CES call center matchmakers will review open units to see what the available openings are for them to fill, what the notes are, what the metadata is, and when they have a call with a prioritized client that's appropriate for that opening, for one of the openings, they will be on the client page already and look over the household composition, any public alerts or notes, to make sure that the client is an appropriate referral. And then they will go into their referrals tab to the community queue, on the next slide, and they will search for the client's UID and select that, check and make sure that they're making an eligible referral by selecting the opening project and agency and project, and then there's a toggle for eligible clients only, and then they'll search and the client's name will come up, and they will edit the referrals that originally went to the shelter queue, and they will reassign the referral from the shelter queue to the program opening that you as referral managers have identified. And when they're on that toggle there, that reassign to program, they'll only be able to identify the opening by the date and the notes that you put in. That's what they'll see on that particular drop down. So that's why it's very important to put the full information in about your opening into the notes so that they can see it and make sure they're referring the correct client to the correct opening. So once they save that reassigned referral, then it will take them right to that referral as pending. And when you, as the agency referral manager, click over to your referrals, you will see this exact same pending referral in your pending referrals tab. So when you're on the pending referrals tab, if you have anybody who's been sent to your agency, you should always be going through all of the pending referrals. So when you click on it, you'll see all of the referrals that are pending to your agency, and you should always be going through the whole. Make sure that you're going through all of the pending referrals regularly. You shouldn't filter the pending referrals, because if you filter it, then it will actually, Clarity always saves filters that you apply. So you might accidentally, so if you turn on a filter, then you wouldn't be seeing all of the pending referrals and they would expire after 3 days. And you might have missed checking in with those clients. So there's a little badge next to the client's name. That is all of the tracked characteristics that are used for prioritizing and keeping track of the information from CES, that so that you as at the agency can see what the situation is with the client. And then if you want to accept the referral, you'll click on the client's name, and that will take you to the client profile, and you will complete the program enrollment, and that's it. You just enroll the client. There's a little toggle at the bottom of the program enrollment that says complete this referral from the shelter queue, and you just leave that toggled. You don't need to do anything else. You just enroll that client as normal, and that completes the referral. But if you want to do something other than complete the referral, if you want to review, check in, or deny the referral, you'll click on the edit button to the left of the client's name to edit the pending referral. So if you have a referral and the client calls in and they're saying they're thinking they're going to get discharged from the hospital, but they're not sure, and you want to hold that referral for them for a day or 2 or 3, you can change the status from pending to in process, and there's a check-in button, and that will reset the 3-day clock to keep the referral as pending as opposed to it automatically expiring. So you would just use that if in that situation where you are actually in communication with the client and you do think that client is still going to come to your shelter opening, and you want to keep holding that shelter bed or room for that particular client. So clients who aren't enrolled successfully referral promptly. So if the client just doesn't show, doesn't answer their phone, they're not coming, you're not going to hold their bed for them, you change the status to denied. If the referral was inappropriate for some particular reason, change the status to denied. When you choose to deny the client, if you as the program have a particular reason that you denied the client that referral, you would select denied by type as provider. But if the client doesn't show or answers the phone and says, no, I'm not going to come to that shelter, then you select that the client denied. And we want to just have all of this information so that we can improve the process, because we're really just at the beginning of this shelter referral process. We want to start using HMIS so that we can get good information about what referrals are working or not working, what we can do to help streamline it. So you select client or provider denied, select a reason, and then write a quick note in denial information about what happened. If it's just no show, you can just write client didn't show or no show in the reason and the information. So, and that's kind of the end of our content for now. We wanted to make sure we had lots of time for questions. And yeah, so we want to if you have any questions that are, whether they're specific to your program or more generally, that's what we're here for. So feel free to unmute or put anything in the chat, or if there's any particular screen you want to kind of see more detail again, we can pull it up again and go over it again.
Sorry. Betty, you had asked about deleting and opening. Were you able to catch that when because as soon as you said it, Tucker went over it. So I didn't even ask you, but I just wanted to make sure that you understood like the screen and everything and how to go ahead and delete an opening.
Yeah, he answered my questions pretty much right after I typed them in. So
yeah, I think
thank you for that. Well, actually, I'm sorry, okay. I actually do have one question.
Yep.
So they're only going to be in pending for 3 days, and if there's no response, then they're going to be expired like automatically, or so
yeah.
You definitely want to be checking this every day. Yeah,
definitely for shelter, you want to, if you can, you want to check in with the clients every day.
Yeah.
And if they tell you they're not, if you talk to them right after if call center talks to them, you think they're going to show up, they don't show up, you call them, they say they're going to come the next day, they don't come the next day, you can, it's up to your own policies at the shelter in terms of what you're going to do in terms of when to deny those. But if you do talk to that client and you want to keep holding that bed for them for more than 3 days, you just use that check-in button, change the status from pending to pending in process, and check in to keep that referral.
So active. if you don't hit check-in, that will also automatically expire in 3 days.
Correct.
Okay.
What do we do, because we require a BCI of all adults in the family before we intake? How is that gonna?
I'm sorry, say that again, Paula.
We require a BCI before we intake. How is that? Do I put pending?
You would put pending. So
Okay.
it'd be the same way that you're doing it now.
Yep.
You would just, it would just have to reflect in HMIS.
Okay, that's what I thought. Thank you.
You're welcome. So I don't know if you remember, I stopped sharing, I'm sorry. It's when you go to do that pending, the date that it shows is last activity. So last activity from when you entered in, pending in process or pending. So as long as it gets updated, yep, last activity, and then it would be check-in. That last activity date is when you last checked in. So you want to do it within 3 days.
Can you show that check-in screen again? Is that
I can't,
possible?
sorry, yes.
Thanks.
Can you see my screen?
Yes, yeah, I can see it.
Okay, so this is the screen.
Mhm.
Last activity,
Yep.
and it would be this, so it would be 3 days from here.
Okay. And then, so you just click on that check-in button and it will change the date?
It'll update the date to today's date, yes.
Okay, perfect. Awesome, thank you.
You're welcome. I keep unsharing because I'm on bus duty. My daughter's gonna come home soon. So it's not that I don't want to share my screen, guys. I'm sorry. Okay. So Christina asked, when are the referrals starting? So we had a date, but I think we're going to give it a little bit more time. Because we are testing it out with a few agencies. And some things have come up, so it's not going to go live just yet. But it's good to get, accustomed to the screens, and basically the process of how it's going to be. This recording is going to be updated on our LMS. So anyone here that didn't make it to this training will be able to see it on the LMS, as well as the agency managers that have, that are going to be requesting agency referral staff to have those roles, as well as any matchmakers from our call center.
So
So
I have another question.
yeah, go ahead.
The CES call line. Oh, can you hear me?
Yep, we can hear you.
Oh, okay. So the CES call line that is making the referrals, do they understand how each program works? Like what the requirements are of each shelter that the individual is being referred to? So they're not making, I don't want to say unnecessary referrals, but all right, so an instance, any woman being referred to my particular transitional program has to be mentally stable and not in active drug use. So in that case, does the person that is referring that individual, do they know, like if they know for a fact that someone's actively using, are they still going to make that referral? And then I have to determine it on my end, because we have an application process and an interview process, and then the person would be going on the wait list. Well, there really wouldn't be a wait because you stated one referral per opening to the program, so that kind of eliminates whole wait list. But we also have in-house applicants too. So I was just curious if, again, if the CES, they understand how the requirements are of each program. Does that make sense?
It makes sense, but I don't think, I'm not sure. What I want to say is, if they make a referral to your program and you can see by their notes in coordinated entry that they're not a correct fit, then that's when you would just go ahead and deny that referral. So it's not that we're trying to, oh, my screen just changed. Christina, can you hear me?
Yeah, we can hear you.
Okay. It just, she shifted. Yeah, she just told me to hold on. Give me 1 second.
What do you put in the notes when you do the availability that the person would have to be in recovery? Would that be the place to put that information? You know, when you're selecting that you have an opening and you're doing that form, there's a place to put notes. Like, would you type in there that the person that if this opening requires that the person be not in active use? I mean, would that be a place to do that?
Betty, are you talking about the?
I'm talking about for Christina's, in response to what Christina was asking. I'm sorry. Just button my nose in where it don't belong.
No. So yeah, so in terms of like what is true of the overall program eligibility and requirements. So it's not what happens through Clarity isn't it's changing the way that those referrals are sent. It's not changing anything about the client experience in terms of them calling in or what information you've provided to coordinated entry about what referrals should look, what the eligibility is. We've set the eligibility at the program level. I think that for your particular case, Christina, it's really what that situation really requires is that this new system through Clarity isn't going to override any existing system. So you just need to make sure that your program is coordinating with CES in a way that is working for both you and for the CES team.
Looks like you're on mute.
Sorry. Is the CES team all regular staff?
Yeah, the call center staff are all
the same. Okay. So if I have that conversation with one of the CES staff, you know, so they get to know the program a little bit more, and
so, yeah, you should have that conversation with Pete. Pete is the.
Okay.
So, not to put you on the spot, Amy, but Amy Espinal is on the call, and I just don't know.
Sorry, I'm having some tech issues. Can you guys hear me?
Yeah, we can hear you.
Okay, I've literally this entire time been trying to unmute myself. My apologies. What I was saying is that, so we have assessments that we all ask. It's a set of questions to try to get to the meat of each individual's, situation. We do get a lot of folks that I think they know from prior experience, like whether or not how they answer something, if they're not going to be allowed to go to a particular program. So I have had people that just flat out have lied to my agents about their prior drug use or whether or not they're in recovery right now. So we try our best to filter it out, but I would actually appreciate it. I think it would work great. Particularly, you can always reach out to Pete Pete right now is not available this week just due to some, a family emergency, but if you want to email me, I'm the one that disseminates the information to the rest of the team, and I'm the lead. So if
Okay.
you email me, it's exactly what's required for each of your programs. I will tailor what I use as a tool to relay the bed count to everyone, because it's myself and other individuals, and just a few individuals that are actually going in and keying in the referrals into HMIS and basically submitting everything to go to you. So if I can, in my tools that I use with the rest of the team, delineate, this is exactly what we're looking for this program. I think that it'll make things less harder for you guys on your end. And hopefully we can, help weed out more of that client lies, unfortunately. And I feel bad because, some people want a particular program. They know the success of the program. They like the staff, but they may not be a good fit. And so,
Correct.
and I can't call them out right in their face right then and there, like, hey, but you said 2 weeks ago, you know what I mean?
Yeah, no,
But if
I
you,
get it.
yeah, and I can put my, I'm going to put my email in the chat. Because sometimes I don't want Amy Ferguson to get everything that's meant to this Amy. So,
Well, Amy also knows because she used to work for the House of Hope. So she has a pretty good understanding of how the OFS program works. And I get referrals from in-house outreach case managers where, yeah, not all the time they are, or they say, oh, I've been clean for 15 years. And then they move in and it's a different story, So I understand that. But,
no, absolutely. But I mean, I
with it
have
not being staffed 24/7 makes a huge difference. And that's
Yeah.
that's the big piece with this particular OFS program. It is not in the men's OFS program. It is not staffed 24/7. So
Amy,
the individuals being referred to that particular program,
Amy,
You
you
gotta
sent
be
your
stable.
email directly to me, not everyone, sorry.
my bad. Hold on.
That's okay. I can copy it, it's fine.
Can I ask a quick related question?
Mhm.
So are 100% of these referrals through this whole shelter system going to be coming through CES? And if so, or if not, like how does outreach kind of interface with this? Because I feel like street outreach teams, especially for night to nights, are maybe encountering people that need a urgent placement in a shelter. And are they going to be able to send people? Can they make that referral through HMIS, or does that not matter?
So I think it's a little bit different in I think we're in a little bit more of kind of COVID land still in terms of what the night by night shelters are kind of how they're operating.
Mhm.
So sort of the expectation for night by night shelters, as far as I know, is that they will be taking, after the call center has ended for the night, that they will be taking people into their open beds off of the street from outreach teams.
Yep.
That's certainly still the goal. I don't think we have the expectation of those referrals happening through Clarity Live. We're not expecting to give outreach staff access so that they can pull it up on their phone at 9:30 p.m. when they're trying to get somebody to a night by night shelter that has an opening. That's a little bit I think that's a little bit beyond what we could foresee in the near term.
They will certainly appreciate that. Thank you.
Yeah.
Just checking and trying to get ahead. And I know because we're anticipating having a set aside at Echo for those night to nights. And so I'm just kind of trying to think through what that process might look like. So appreciate that.
Yeah. And I mean, I think definitely when Echo goes up, I mean, if we look at the shelter queue and the way things are happening, if we just make sure that we have a good process between the CES team and the outreach staff, you know, I think that getting, you know, making sure that those folks who are going to get referred, they all are the high scores on the crisis assessment. They just aren't necessarily interested in the shelter options that are available right now. So we just want to make sure that we're deliberate about getting all of those high scoring outreach folks who you guys are, the outreach teams are seeing all the time, you know, in through the system in a way that we're just keeping track of it, because I'm sure the numbers will line up. It's just a matter of hopefully lining up the process for it to happen in a way that we can keep track of it. Okay, does anybody else have any other questions?
I've got nothing on my end. I think we're good.
We are.
All right. Well, thanks everyone.
Thank you so much.
Again, this is going to be uploaded on the LMS. So if there's, you know, staff that couldn't make it today, they can always watch this. And I'm pretty sure we'll be sending out, you know, notification as to when this is going to go live. And I'm sure we'll have another training as well. So
Maria, is it the Clarity administrator that is going to let you know who the referral manager is?
it can be, yes. As long as we get an email in on the help desk letting us, identifying what staff it is.
Okay.
You know, and if you're a supervisor and you're not the agency manager, that's okay too. But we just need to know who it is, right? It's not going to be everyone.
Can it be more than one staff?
Yes, it can.
Okay. Okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
Yeah, especially it might be the case that you have somebody who's working during the day, who's putting the openings in for the referrals to come in, and then you might have somebody in the evening who is the one who would be looking at the pending referrals tab and accepting the client into the program. That would certainly be a common scenario, I think.
That's my bus. I'm heading out. Sorry. Thank you, everybody.
Thank you. Bye.
Thanks, everybody.
Bye. Thank you so much.